On this episode, we're joined by Filip Bech-Larsen, who is the CTO at Umbraco. So today we're going to discuss the future of content management systems, including current trends towards cloud, headless and digital experience platforms. And we're also going to find out a bit more about how the recent acquisition of Umbraco by a private equity firm has changed things at the company. So firstly, Filip, thank you for joining us today.
I'm happy to be here.
So for those that aren't familiar with Umbraco as a company and a product, can you give us a bit of background?
Yeah. So Umbraco is an open source CMS, so content management system. We started out as a traditional open source project, one man in the basement, and kind of grew from there. And now there's a company of 100 employees that works on it, on the commercial services around it, cloud and support and that kind of stuff.
Sounds good. And before we sort of dive into a bit more depth about the products now, your CTO, how did you sort of join the company and get that role? What's your background?
I mean, I used to be a developer.
Okay.
I wrote JavaScript all day long and had a lot of fun with that, and slowly turned into management. I met Umbraco 7-8 years ago at one of the agencies I was working at. Okay. And always thought it was a very interesting, different kind of company. So when I got the chance, I was all for it, and I jumped on a couple of years ago.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Well, I guess before we, talk a bit more about the products that you've got, if we take a step back and sort of zoom out and think big picture, I'd be really interested to hear what your sort of thoughts are on the current trends around content management systems in the current market. Yeah.
Well, there's obviously a big trend about headless. Headless is there's a lot of hype, there's a lot of investments going around, and a lot of attention on that. And we think that's a natural evolution or progression of where content is going. Then the other side of that is the whole DXP kind of thing, so the digital experience platform, where you have all your surrounding systems integrated in a solution where editors have a great feeling of working with it, and you still have a setup that's scalable and where you can opt for different kind of life cycles of your infrastructure. But probably the last thing is not tied directly to CMS, but I mean, generally we see a shortage of developers, right? Like it's hard to get developers. Developers are expensive, and they're treated very well for good reasons. And I mean, we're very happy that some of the latest surveys and stuff, the technologies that we're built on is actually the most popular one amongst developers. So picking a CMS or picking your stack, you should also pick something that your developers actually wants to work on, because you want them to stay around, right?
Yes. I think within the .NET space, I think it's fair to say you'll probably have one of the most modern architectures. There's been a lot of rebuilding, which we'll talk about a bit later, in .NET Core, for example. And the underpinnings are probably one of the most modern. And is part of that reason that you want to attract the...
Yeah, of course. I mean, we started out as a technology company, and that's still what we are at the core of everything. Like we're passionate about technology, and developers always want to work on the new shiny thing, and we want to enable that.
Yes, yeah. It's interesting. You talked about headless. I mean, that's something as an agency, particularly over the last 6 months to a year, we're seeing more and more briefs come our way, specifically wanting a fully decoupled headless CMS. And a good example would be Hampshire Trust Bank, which we've recently launched a project using the hardcore headless product that you have. What are your plans for sort of in that space, and how do you see that product, hardcore, sort of coexisting and sitting alongside the main product in future? Yeah,
so we think of hardcore is kind of a software as a service product that we sell on the side. So it's the core Umbraco, the open source project at the core of it, and then there's like a delivery layer on top of it, so that it scales super well. It's really, really fast, and you still get all the flexibility and the great editor experience that people really want from Umbraco, and that they really enjoy. I think it's a great setup where you have all the flexibility that you need, but you're still able to scale and deliver to a bigger audience, and really grow with your project.
And you also mentioned DXPs, sort of experience platforms, and certainly the market has been a big sort of shift towards that in recent years. And I think some of your competitors, commercial products, they've got a bundled in and built a lot of functionality that supports that DXP architecture within these products, if you think about, some of the advanced marketing features and content personalization and predictive analytics and the like, what's sort of your offering, or what's your thoughts on how Umbraco is going to play in that space in future?
Yeah, so I think the evolution that we're seeing is that the CMSs kind of became DXPs, and then now we started talking about composable DXP, where it's not like the suite where you buy one product and then you also get their commerce engine and their personalization engine and their marketing automation engine and stuff, but where it's more pluggable or more composable. And that really fits our strategy really well, because we've always talked about best of breed. You should have the freedom to choose whatever you want in your stack, and then everything's easy to integrate into Umbraco. Because we're so flexible, because everything is built around the editor experience, it's a really great fit for us. So I mean, for us, it's a lot about making sure that integrations are available off the shelf. So that if you're already using HubSpot or Salesforce or commerce tools or whatever out there, there's pre-built integrations for you, so that you can kind of pick whatever engine you want, and they'll have a seamless integration to Umbraco.
Yes. Okay. So your approach is be extensible, be easy to plug into, and kind of pre-make some integrations.
Yeah, the strategy is partnerships, and then pre-building integrations, the most important integrations.
Okay. Yeah. So things like building your own kind of personalization engine, things like that, aren't really sort of on the roadmap for.
Not for us. No, we already have great partners that has built personalization engines for Umbraco, and that's the approach that we take.
Cool. Well, it's interesting actually. Some of the kind of I think over the last 5 years, a lot of incumbent CMSs, particularly commercial ones, as you say, kind of built in this extra functionality in a kind of almost a monolithic way within their product. And it's interesting you said sort of composable DXP, because that's certainly the language that's very current from them at the moment in the market. It's almost starting to unpack those into kind of modules that could be, in theory, you could use, a module from here and a module from there, and sort of
exactly like it together. It fits very well with like the move away from the monolith, from the big mainframe, right? People want the flexibility, and I think probably to me the biggest, the most important reason for that is the different life cycles. Like if you have a commerce engine, maybe you have a product information management system, you have a DAM or like a digital asset management system or whatever. Like if they're all in the same suite, then you have to swap them all at the same time. But most often, like there's different life cycles on them. You want a new website relatively often, whereas your ERP system or your CRM system, you probably don't ever want to change those. So why would you build that in the same thing? Like you want integrations, and then you want the flexibility to do whatever you want.
And there's also probably the argument that different products have strengths and weaknesses. So you want to really get the best in class.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you make the right trade-off on all of them, and you don't have to pick the entire suite. Right?
Yes. Okay. Cool. So I guess another sort of trend we're seeing is companies really wanting to move away from hosting things themselves towards cloud. I mean, that's been going for a good number of years, but all the people starting to talk about platform as a service and infrastructure as a service, etc. You also have the Umbraco Cloud product that launched, I think it was sort of 4 years ago.
Yeah, something like that.
I mean, how's that gone, and what's the take up been like for that product?
Pretty good. I mean, we're definitely happy. Of course, we always want more. I mean, that's where the growth of our business is primarily.
Okay.
I mean, the developer feedback that we get is really good. They really like the experience that you click a button and then all of a sudden you have a production environment, a development environment, and everything's just set up for you. It's super easy to get started. It's super fast. The time to market is really important these days, and that just is accelerated a lot with cloud. And then on the operations side of it, as an agency or as a direct customer, like the fact that we do the upgrades of the platform, of the Umbraco install that you're on and stuff, it's a real time saver, and you can sleep good at night because you're safe, you're always up to date. So yeah, I think the takeoff's been pretty good. Of course, we always want more, but we're happy with it.
And do you think you'll always have that kind of, the hardcore is the fully headless, for the SaaS CMS there, but also cloud for those that do want to have a bit more control maybe over their own customer.
Yeah, so in the non-hardcore cloud, so classic cloud or whatever you call it, we see that as a platform as a service where you can have your own custom code, and there's a lot more flexibility in exactly how you want to do it. Where hardcore is more of a software as a service kind of service where it's more managed. But then on the other hand, we make sure that everything runs, and I mean, when you can't ship code, then you can't break stuff. Right?
Yes. I think it was because you've got the courier product that makes deploying between different environments sort of super easy now, and I think that originated from cloud, right? I think. Yeah. So that's obviously been spun off now as well.
Yeah, we made it into a product called Deploy. That's also available for on-prem usage, and I think we kind of think of it as a gateway drug to cloud, right? Where you get used to the great experience of moving content from your staging environment to your live environment, so you can launch features alongside content or something like that. And when you get that great experience on-prem, it's a lot easier to take that into cloud and vice versa. I mean, if for some reason you start in cloud and you want to move out, if you buy a deploy on-prem license, then you can actually have the same experience outside cloud.
Yes, yeah, interesting. So you had another product, Umbraco, which launched a couple of years ago, which I saw last week, sort of announced that you'd withdrawn that from the market.
Yes.
What's the background for that? Why it's been withdrawn?
I mean, it's mostly a focus thing. Like, we only have limited, developers. Of course, everybody is limited, right? And we want to make sure that we don't spread ourselves too thin, and focus on hardcore and regular cloud where we see a more uptake.
Yes. Yeah. I guess strategically, it was because it's like a self-service website builder, wasn't it?
Yeah. And it was a super competitive market. Like, if you start to compete with the Wixes or the Squarespaces or something like that, it's just super competitive, and it's very low margins. I mean, Umbraco's always been for developers, and developers really, really love it because of all the flexibility I've been saying again and again. Yeah. And I mean, we kind of got lost in that with Uno a little bit. So it's we're getting closer to the core and focusing our effort.
Sounds good. So in terms of sort of the core product, then, so I think it's fair to say there's been a lot of sort of investment in the underlying architecture in recent years, and redevelopment and re-architecting. And it's great now that the core is built on .NET Core, and as I say, there's a really sort of modern underpinnings now. From an upgrade perspective, obviously as an agency, there were the move from V7 to V8, and in particular had quite a hard upgrade path. As you've got to this sort of V9 and looking forward, are there any kind of major reworkings of the platform on the roadmap, or have things sort of stabilised a bit for now?
I mean, so the major switch we've made is to say, instead of doing the big bang releases where we change everything at once, we want to make the upgrades a lot easier. So we'll make them a little more frequent. Okay. And that means that everybody should be able to always be on the newest version and not get left behind.
Yes.
I think the next bigger breaking thing that we have on the table is for package developers mostly, so people that build extensions for Umbraco.
Okay.
We call those packages, and that's scheduled for something like Umbraco 13 or something. So it's it's still quite a long time away. Yeah.
Okay. And how is that market, the kind of package market, that sort of community around that? Is that sort of seen a lot of growth in recent years?
Yeah, it's been really interesting to see how we went from being only open source packages where everything was free and community vibe and high fives and all of that is fantastic and still super valuable for us, right? But starting to see people actually build their business on top of Umbraco, making commercial offerings, making commercial packages.
Yes.
So that's been a really interesting shift for us to see that it's not. I mean, people probably maturing like we are, growing into a proper company, and instead of having your open source commerce engine, why not make it a product? And people are happy to pay because then they get support and then they get all the help they need, and they can help shape the commerce product's future or whatever. So that's an interesting shift we've seen. I mean, with the .NET Core upgrade you talked about, like we were really happy to see that I would say 95% of the top 100 packages were already migrated when we launched.
Okay.
So there's a big, the community is very active, and they really want to be, as the point I was making earlier, like they really want to be on the forefront, on the newest tech, on the new shiny thing, right? So that means that you can depend on a package, and you won't be left behind, because the packages also want to upgrade.
I think I've seen a bit more of those kind of, if you think about the DXP sort of conversation, those pre-built integrations and things like that for some major platforms appearing, just as packages that can be easily installed, which I think is probably sort of points to that.
Yeah, exactly.
Just how easy it is to plug it in the future. Cool. So you talked about the maturity of the company. One big bit of news last year was the acquisition of Umbraco by a private equity company. But you're interested, seeing as you're here today, just to ask how that's going and really what's changed at Umbraco HQ since then.
Yeah. Probably the most significant change has been that they've allowed all the employees to buy into the company.
Okay.
So all employees have gotten access, and I think more than 60% of the company is actually now owners.
Wow, okay.
So that's really great for like the future, or like the core of the company as well. So I think that's a really good thing. Other than that, it's great. I mean, Montero, the equity company, they only work through the board, so they're on the board, but they're not they're not doing anything day-to-day operations.
Okay.
So they're bringing us some experience. They used to be in a similar company, a lot of them before. So there's lots of experience in taking a product like ours, taking it into the US, taking it into new markets, expanding your partnerships, all that kind of stuff. So there's lots of experience that we can pull from. So that's really good. But I mean, day to day, not really a lot has changed, right? So it's still the 9.13% crazy at the office, right? So it's it's still a lot of fun.
Cool. So in terms of the future, being open source,
we will absolutely stay open source. I mean, as I like to say, like they more or less bought a property or a company that has no intellectual property, right? So like the value of Umbraco is the community, is the open source product. So if there's no reason to change that around. That would just be destroying what you just purchased, right? So I'm certain that we will stay open source, and we will continue to grow the open source project.
Well, it certainly seems from the outside that the buzz and excitement around the product does seem to be growing, which is good.
I think the direction will stay the same, but maybe we're able to speed it up a little bit, right? Like because we have some more muscle behind us now. Right?
And do you think, either related to this or not, are you sort of aiming to go more in the direction of enterprise in the coming years? Is that a shift?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I think we will kind of expand the market that we're trying to hit. We've seen a lot of our traditional competitors kind of leave the upper mid market. So there's a gap for us, and of course we're eager to fill that and to talk to new customers. And I mean, you'll probably see that some of the features that we will launch in the next 6, 12, 18 months are going to be more focused on stuff that you need when you have a bigger organization or run bigger websites or have more traffic or something like that. So maybe, you could say we'll be going up market a little bit, or at least expanding where we'll go, because it's very important to us that we don't leave, the old faithful agencies and customers behind.
And I guess as you build out these sort of commercial services that can, drive revenue and drive growth in the platform, that's also going to be reinvested in that main core platform. So, depending on the size of the projects, everyone, should benefit.
Yeah,
absolutely. Would be the idea. So if we zoom out again and think about, the next couple of years in the context that we just talked about, where do you think what changes do you think we'll see in the CMS market over the next sort of 5 years, if we think big picture?
I mean, to be honest, I think it's interesting where Headless will go, because I mean if we look back 20 years, like the move between client and server has gone up and down, right? So it'll be interesting to see whether there's a swing back, or whether we will go fully headless and we will never look back and never render templates in ASP.NET Core anymore, right?
Yes.
So that's an interesting thing, and I mean, to be honest, I'm not 100% convinced yet. which way we will go. So I think for us, it's going to be a lot about, you know, paying attention to the market, paying attention to where we're going, and at least not shutting any doors.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Any other sort of big trends that you think? So sort of headless maybe growing or any other sort of big trends you think we should?
I mean, there's a lot of stuff around delivering at the edge. We see more and more of the Gatsby's, the Next.js, where we, you know, pre-render sites and put them all the way on the CDN, so they're super fast and always available and stuff. And that's kind of a space that we're looking into. How can we fit into that? There's already open source packages available from Umbraco that, you know, at deploy time, so whenever you push save or publish time, they will actually, you know, pre-build the website and put it out as static files, so you can serve it on a CDN or something like that. And I think that'll probably be something we will look into more in our cloud offering, and seeing how can we make something like that available.
Yes.
Maybe especially for hardcore. Because it's very much a trend that's combined with the headless space, right?
Yes, yeah, we definitely see that growing. And if we think a bit closer to home, thinking ahead to the rest of this year, are there any sort of features on the roadmap you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, Umbraco 10 is out in a couple of months, and the big headlines are, you know, the next iteration of .NET, so it's .NET 6. And there's a lot of new features in that. We're adding a new or support for a new embedded database and stuff. Very developer focused Umbraco 10 release. And then Umbraco 11 is going to be a little more on the editor, on the user experience kind of thing. So we'll see like the next iteration of our grid with a lot more flexibility in like the blocks that you kind of build your content from.
Yes, interesting. Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Well, brilliant. It's been lovely to speak today and meet in person. Yeah. And thanks for sharing that. And we'll look forward to seeing how the product develops.
Yep.
Thanks for audience for listening.